This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the MBRWC. Have you guys ever seen that movie, Urban Cowboy, with John Travolta, where he rides a mechanical bull? Well, this is that. The World Championship qualifiers, that's Mechanical Bull Riding World Championship, is taking place July 24th and 25th at Dillon, Montana History Days at their Frontier Event Center. July 24th is the practice round starting at 1 p.m. July 25th is a competitive rounds. $50 per entry fee. Men and women 18 and over are invited to compete. It's funny because a woman won it last year. She beat everybody. All the guys. I think there were some real bull riders in there. She won $4,500. It's a one-handed endurance ride. So it's not an 8-second ride. It's whoever can stay on the longest in proper bull riding form. Pretty fun. Check them out on Facebook. There's more details there. Again, that's mbrwc.com.
This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. This is The Gauge, and I am Chance Conrado. On this episode of the podcast, we have got a serious personality, Courtenay DeHoff. Courtney has a huge background in rodeo. She grew up rodeoing, grew up on a farm like a lot of us did. She also has a huge background in the entertainment industry. She spent a lot of time in New York. She's been on big network television. She's awesome. She's trying to promote the sport of rodeo. She's coming at it from a different angle. She's trying to merge, non-rodeo culture and rodeo culture, which I think is great. Check it out.
Yeah, what are the rules? Does everything go on this podcast?
Literally everything goes.
Okay.
No, our last guest was a cowboy preacher, like the cowboy preacher.
Okay.
So we've got to kind of come back from all that Jesus.
Oh, so I'm the comeback from Jesus girl. Yes. Great.
Well, after I watched your joggers
Prepare yourself.
Yes, that's you. Okay. Yep. So that's why I'm excited.
Oh, boy.
Because there's a time and a place for the sweet Lord, but it's not today.
Yeah. Even your light fixtures are nice. This is swanky.
Don't look at me.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
No, I'm just thinking of my own sad podcast in my kitchen. Oh.
Maybe it's a nice kitchen. I've seen some great kitchens.
I mean, it's okay. It looks like every other apartment kitchen in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of cowgirls living in apartments. That's an interesting thing.
That's part of the brand.
Explain the brand. Explain yourself. Let everybody know out there who you think doesn't know who you are.
I will. Are we starting?
We've been going.
Oh, great. You didn't even warn me.
You can move the mic a little bit lower if you want.
She seems a little infatuated
because
with
I'm
the
loud.
Microphone.
That's what he's saying. He's
no. I
really
just want the camera to actually be able to see your face.
Loud and aggressive. Okay, so are we doing this thing?
Yes. We've been doing it.
Okay. So what was the question?
The question was, Courtney, tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are. Let us know why everybody should follow you.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll start from the beginning. I grew up on a ranch in Kansas. My grandparents run a large cow-calf operation, and I grew up showing Angus heifers. So I'm a show cattle girl and a rodeo girl. I like to tell people I had the best of both worlds, but I high school rodeoed in Kansas. I went to Oklahoma State on a rodeo scholarship. I pro rodeoed a little bit. During my time at Oklahoma State, I got into TV. I needed an internship to graduate, so as one does, I got that done my freshman year. But I interned at a TV station, and I fell in love with it. And I was super gung-ho to see my own face on TV.
You don't say.
Yeah, you don't say. But what I discovered was I really loved telling stories, and I was really infatuated with human interest pieces and just sort of learning what made people tick. And I had a great mentor there who taught me to shoot and edit and do all of the behind the scenes things as well. So graduated from Oklahoma State. I went to Nashville. My first TV job was in Nashville, Tennessee. I lasted a whole year before I quit.
Why'd you quit?
I quit because I hated it. And it was a volatile environment. I had never been in the entertainment industry. I grew up like a little cowgirl in Kansas where your word means something and you respect people and you're polite to women. And I just got this whole new experience. I was just thrown into the entertainment industry, at its very worst. And so I quit, which was sort of a really hard decision because you don't just quit your first big girl job. How embarrassing. What am I going to do? How am I going to explain this to people? So I pack up all my stuff. I move home and I bought a one-way ticket to Europe, which really thrilled my parents. And I moved to Europe. And I lived in the Czech Republic for like 6 months, and I just like bounced around. And
Did you like bouncing around between hostels? Is that what you did?
You
were that chick?
I have done that, and I have been that chick. I once
There's
stayed
movies about girls
in
like
an
that.
18-bedroom hostel. You want to talk about a nightmare? Yeah. No, so I had an apartment this time, but I have done the whole hostel scene. Now that I'm like a more mature woman, I would not do a hostel again. But when you're young and broke, that is your best option. So I traveled around Europe, really fell in love with traveling as well, because again, at its core, traveling, like you just get to discover all these cool stories about people. So I come home, can't get a job, can't get an agent. Oh, what's this? You have to have an agent to get a job in TV. I didn't know that. Nobody would represent me. So I sent emails for months and months and months. Finally got a job at CBS in Kansas City. So I hosted a lifestyle show in Kansas City for 2 years, loved it, learned a lot. And then I was like, okay, now's my time. I'm going to New York. Great. Like I'm going to go right to New York from Kansas City. I'm going to jump like 30 markets and I'm going to be famous because like that's what I was born to do. That's what I want to do. Well, sort of this big struggle developed because it was suddenly, wait a minute, do I want to be a cowgirl and like, you know, all the things that make me who I am, or do I just want to be a TV host, like living in New York, fitting in, whatever. And so there's like real struggle of which do I want to be, like a fancy lady living in New York or a cowgirl? I can't be both because the industry's telling me I can't be both. The entertainment industry.
Both industries.
Every industry. The cowgirls in the world, you know, the Western industry, the entertainment industry, like they don't really collide and mesh necessarily. And so, you know, the agents that would answer my phone calls, which wasn't very many of them, they're like, what? We don't get it. Like you can't do both. You need to either be a TV host or like go home to Kansas and ride your pony. Like that's how they talk to me.
They're so brutal in that industry.
Yeah.
Because they don't have time.
100%. They're so busy. There's so many people that want to do it. And so I struggled with that for a long time. Eventually I got a job in Dallas, top 5 market, which was great. And I remember when I got the job, I like posted a picture on Instagram as one does. And I had all these messages like, oh my God, who's your agent? Like, this is amazing. We can't believe you got into a market of this size. And I was like, I don't have an agent because nobody would answer my phone calls. And I literally got this job in Dallas because once a month for 7 months, I sent an email to the executive producer. And I said, hey, keep me in mind. Here's my demo reel. I love this show. It's progressive. I want to be a part of it. She never answered a single email until month number 7. And she responded and was like, hey, how soon can you be here? We want to fly you out. And I was like, is she drunk? Like what? I've been emailing you for 7 months, but that's how the entertainment industry works. And so flew out, got the job, and was suddenly the host of a national news network on the CW based in Dallas. So a syndicated show. So we were seen all over the country, and our direct competitor was like the Today Show and the GMAs. We were on a much smaller level. But as I was doing this news show, I was still like struggling because I was suddenly living in Dallas. I was living in a major city, but I still was a cowgirl. Like I still had that like in my spirit. And occasionally I would say things and do things at work that were like very cowgirl. Like I'm very outspoken, which I know I'm sure is hard to imagine.
I couldn't believe you came in here with so much poise and you were so respectful.
Oh, are you winking?
So,
like was
no,
that,
I'm not a winker. But if I
was like,
were
wait,
to
is
wink,
he
we'd probably
joking?
have to stop the show.
Yeah, if he winks once on camera, I'm quitting.
You okay? We'll fire him and we'll just do it together. It'll be great. Okay, I'm not taking over this podcast. Just
Oh, you're not?
Continue. No. Anyway, so I really wanted to bridge the gap, and during this time, one of the things that our executive producer at this show in Dallas is always hitting us with is, you've got to bring us stories that no one else is talking about. Well, that's really hard to do when you're up against Good Morning America and the Today Show and CNN and all of these giants. Well, about a year and a half into it, there was a story that kind of came across, obviously, my social media feeds. There were huge wildfires that were really ripping up the Midwest, and they were predominantly affecting farmers and ranchers. But I knew that there was a national connection because if our food supply is so largely interrupted, like it's going to affect the mom in Miami, the dad in New York City. Like people needed to know about it. And so I wrote up this really wonderful pitch and I pitched her this story and I said, hey, this is a story that I think is worth telling. And no mainstream media outlet is covering it. And she didn't answer my email. And I literally am making eye contact. Like I can see her checking the email. So I wait an hour. Well, in news, things happen very quickly and you really have to be on top of things. And so we were losing time. The story was quickly becoming old. And so I stood up in the newsroom and I said, hey, did you get my email? And she stood up and all my co-hosts are sitting there, all the producers, this huge staff. And she said, yeah, I got your email. I'd like to remind you that this is a real news show. Stop bringing me your little cowgirl problems. And it just like crushed me because the people that this was affecting, some of them I knew personally. It was burning homes down. It was wiping out generations of, livestock, breeding. Ranches were just literally, there was nothing but dust left. And so what do? I was at the mercy of the network. The network has the last say in everything. So I stayed after work that day and I thought, okay, I can't fly to the Midwest. I don't have any funds. I don't have a crew. Like I can't go out there. But what I noticed on my social pages was that something else like super amazing was happening. And it was the ag community was stepping up and coming together like only the agriculture and the Western community can do. And I thought, that's the story. It's not necessarily how many acres were burned. It's this like human empathy story that I think is a story that the rest of the world needs to hear. And so I just like pulled clips from the few publications that had covered it. I wrote a little script. I recorded it. I used all the TV show's equipment because hello, why not? And I told the story and I posted it on my Facebook, like whatever. It was my way of telling the story and giving back to the community that I really, truly loved, even though I had sort of separated myself from that community and sort of didn't talk about my cowgirl background all that much. I don't know. I had 4,000 or 5,000 followers. Like I didn't have a lot of followers. And I woke up the next morning and it had been viewed 1.1 million times. And for me, that was such a turning point in my way of thinking because it suddenly hit me that, wait a minute, these are stories worth telling. And these people, these cowboys and cowgirls and these ranchers in this Western community, like people want to hear these stories. And that was proof. And, naturally the TV station saw it. And so I got to do a follow-up on a mainstream network, which was huge. And so that's sort of how this was born. I really discovered that there was a need. I also was randomly I auditioned to be on the Kelly Ripa show. This is so random. And I made it to the top 10. And my audition video was completely like a cowgirl, a TV host stuck on the farm because I was unemployed at the time, which I've been unemployed many times throughout my career because as the entertainment industry does, you have jobs and then you don't have jobs. And so between the Kelly Ripa audition and this storytelling, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like I am so tired of the agents and the networks and all these people saying, you can't be both, you can't be both, you can't be both. Like you need to figure out what your niche is and you need to stay in your lane. And I know we haven't known each other very long, but I'm not very good at staying in my lane.
You don't say. I feel like that's going to be the phrase that I use over and over again in between your breasts. You don't say.
I'm not very good at staying in my own lane. And so, fast forward to now, I've been in Dallas for 4 years and I've sort of just branded myself as both. I call it Fancy Lady Cowgirl. I'm a fancy lady cowgirl because I am a cowgirl. I can rope, I can ride. I high school rodeoed, I went to college on a rodeo scholarship. But I also, I would live in New York City in a minute. I love living in Dallas. I love the city life and the country life. And I think that maybe my job or the reason I was put on this earth wasn't to be like some famous news anchor. It was to help bridge that gap between urban and rural and show people, just like you said, I was like, I don't know if I should wear my cowgirl clothes to this podcast or if I should wear my city clothes. It doesn't matter because my message is the same no matter what I'm wearing, no matter what I look like. And so I've just really tried to embrace this whole Fancy Lady Cowgirl brand. And the Fancy Lady comes from when I was a little girl. It's just one of those stories, that you always remember. We went to the zoo with family friends and my mom's best friend bought me this princess hat. And I remember thinking it was the coolest stuff ever. And she looked at me and she's like, you're such a fancy lady in that hat. And I remember as a little girl being like, yes, I am. I'm wearing eyelashes. Have you had any guests wear fake eyelashes yet?
You know how many barrel racers we've had as guests? They wear fake eyelashes one time a year.
One time a year?
Yeah.
For this?
Not for this.
For the NFR?
That's right. For the first night.
No, girl. Art boy, I'm sorry, you're not a. Can you please cut this out? Okay, thank you.
Did my appearance, as you're talking about fancy and bridging gaps, is it my appearance?
Okay, this is so funny. I work with no. Okay, back up. Anyway, I don't even.
No, you're backpedaling. Back up. You're gonna run into a wall if you keep backing up there, Courtney.
I'm sweating.
You're very nervous.
Okay, could you ask me another question, please? I'm going to take a drink of whatever the hell this is that you made me. This is kind of girly, I'm going to be honest.
Actually, it's just an energy drink and vodka.
What time is it? I'm not going to sleep tonight. It's 6 p.m.
Again, one thing I never like to do is I never like to involve other people in my personal problems, Courtney. I really don't. And for you to put that on me is not really fair, especially after I just let you tell me your beautiful story. And I'm really intrigued, actually, by everything you're telling me, because that's one thing that I personally have always done. Like, I've shelved rodeo many times in my life to pursue other things, whether that be starting businesses or what have you. And I had 2 nice calf horses that I let go and moved to Texas and started a business. And I lived in a high-rise apartment in downtown Fort Worth. Total different thing. And so I can actually relate to what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that there's another person out there who feels those gaps should be bridged. And I think the way that you're approaching it's probably really intelligent, and it has to be done because rodeo and the Western lifestyle is one of the oldest ways of living that exists, period. I mean, it truly is. And it shouldn't be isolated, I don't think. I think it should be an inclusive thing. So if you're somebody who maybe is from the city and maybe you go to a rodeo and you're inspired to be a part of that, you should be welcomed with open arms.
And that's not always the case.
That's not always the case, but it's also not the case the other way.
True.
If the guy in the cowboy hat and the cowboy boots walks to Uptown,
true,
and walks, he's going to get goofed, to put it lightly. So even though we are in Texas, Dallas is a different world.
It's so funny when everyone was so excited when I moved to Dallas, like family members are like, have you met any cowboys? I'm like, no, I live in Dallas. They're like, yeah, we know. Are there just cowboys on the streets? I'm like, no, there are not.
Nope,
down.
Yeah, can't see your face.
Oh, well, the face is really all that matters. So.
Oh, I've heard you were very interested in getting your face recognized. You know what would be really fun, Ty? On the thumbnail for YouTube, just black it out.
There's just like a logo over my head.
Have you seen this person? Because we didn't know who she was before the podcast.
We invited her on the podcast. No idea who she was. She's just filling a hole.
Please don't say that.
You said it.
I did not say filling a hole.
Well, it was implied. But aren't you glad I'm the one filling it?
I'm having a fun time, so.
Thank you. Me too. I'm having a great time. I don't know what.
No, this is great. I am. But one thing you'll find about me is I'm very sarcastic, and it's very hard for people to handle, especially him. Maybe not so much now, but at first.
It's still hard to deal with.
There were lots of tears. Let's put it that way.
I can handle the sarcasm.
No, you're good. Yeah, you worked in newsrooms, and they're very mean.
Yeah, they are mean.
I could never work in that industry because I have serious authority problems, and I don't think I could take that. So props to you.
I might have a little bit of an authority problem.
You might.
As well. Yeah, looking back at my TV, and I still work in TV. I'm just freelancing now. I'm a contractor, which I love because I sort of have a say in where I get to go and what companies I get to work with, and I'm just loving it. Is it as comforting as a steady paycheck and health insurance? No. But from a quality of life standpoint, I'm so much happier.
Well, and there's a parallel there. Rodeo is very much that. It doesn't comfort you financially.
100%.
So.
And I just, I look back though at all those experiences that I've had working for those networks, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And I always tell people, I don't know about you, but I had to leave rodeo and the Western community to really be able to appreciate it.
Yeah. So for me, I wanted a very comfortable life. I decided that I did not have a comfortable life as a kid. My parents were horse trainers, and that's a feast or famine job. Doesn't matter how great your parents are. At some point in time, that is going to be a tough life for a kid. And it was, and it is, and I got bitter towards it. Loved rodeo, loved horses, but wanted to get away. Didn't want to struggle. So I got into entrepreneurship and all those things. Don't struggle. Well, okay. I struggle now, thanks to coronavirus.
Right.
Great time to be alive. But in general, that was my goal, to escape the struggle. And for me, the reason, the gauge and 12 gauge ranch, all that, it's to grow the sport. Mm-hmm. It's to make it more inclusive. It's to blow it up, to keep it from being stagnant, which I think might be the most important thing. And I'm not saying that this show is the most important thing collectively. Everybody, and I say this on like every fucking podcast, but because I want it to hit people, that if you have the opportunity to help grow the sport of rodeo, and I'm not saying the PRCA or the organizations, as great as they are, but the actual culture, you got to do that. So doing something like you, Fancy Cowgirl, bridging a gap, that's a piece of that. Yeah. It's important. Even, and I've said this 1,000, I sound like a freaking record player on repeat. But like shows like the Yellowstone or whatever, all those things, like right now we're in a great time to grow.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what you're doing. That's why I wanted to have you on, because you have a similar mindset.
Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking back to what you said earlier. I never realized how many people could relate to stories like ours either until, and really the Fancy Lady Cowgirl, I was just ticked off one day. And I go all over the country. Like, people will hire me to come and speak to their ag groups. And first of all, when I walk into a room full of 500 farmers and ranchers as a young woman, I can already see eyes starting to roll. So like, my message always is, wait a minute, don't write me off just by what I look like. Don't write me off just because I'm not the stereotypical old school cowboy that you envision when you think of what it means to be cowboy. And one day, I don't even know what had set it off, but I posted something on my Instagram like, hey, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it once. You can live in the biggest cities in America and still advocate for agriculture. You can live in the heart of New York City and still promote the sport of rodeo. And I sort of just went on this tangent, I guess you could call it, and posted it to my Instagram, whatever, walked out the door. I could not believe the messages and the responses I got from people all over the country who were like, hey, we grew up on a ranch and now, you know, we work in finance, or I grew up on a ranch and now I'm a surgeon. I mean, you can't believe the people out there who are doing amazing things outside of agriculture that came from agriculture. And it's a two-way street. Also, there are people who are trying to get into agriculture who are being written off because they don't know anything. And maybe they don't look the part or have the right, you know, ideals that their neighbor thinks they should have. And so that's always just been my message. Like, we have to include everyone. I go to these conferences and stuff all the time, and there's always this conversation of, well, the people don't know where their food comes from and they're so disconnected. And yes, I would agree, but it's not the consumer's fault. I believe that we have the biggest role in like spreading the message of who we are, what we do, and we need to be more welcoming. You know, I do know why I posted that. I just remembered I lived in New York for a while. And I was working in TV. I was, you know, doing, I don't even know what I was doing, but I was having a great time. So I was sharing on my social media because that's what you do, right? And I started getting messages from people, like actual people who I could go to their profile. I'm like, okay, this isn't a robot. You're a real person, that said things like, wow, we followed you because you're such an advocate for agriculture. What a traitor. You're living in a shithole like that. We're unfollowing you because you don't know anything about ag. Suddenly, because I wasn't in the right, you know, area, or because I wasn't living in the right spot, or because I was, you know, going to New York Fashion Week and doing all this super cool stuff, I no longer was an important piece to the story. And people in our own community wrote me off. And so that's why I posted it. And then I just could not believe the response from people that were like, yeah, like, just like you said, I left my barrel horse at home that first year, you know, went to Nashville and never came back home. He died when I was living in Dallas working at a TV show that I hated. I was getting up at 3 a.m. 5 days a week. I was miserable. And that was also sort of a moment where I was like, God, I gave up everything I loved to pursue this industry and this passion that's trying to mold me into something that they can sell. And I have a friend, Jenna Paulette, who would be great on your podcast, by the way, who is a singer-songwriter in Nashville, grew up on a ranch in Texas. And so we were sort of chatting about the entertainment industry, and she said the same thing. She goes, the hardest part about working in our industry is staying true to yourself. Because if they don't quite get it, if they can't sell it, if they can't market it and easily make a lot of money on you, then they don't want to be a part of it. Earlier this year, before COVID hit, I was sort of working for the PBR, and I got a call from my agent, and he said, hey, they're launching a new show in New York. They want to fly you up. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. Free trip to New York. Woo. And so I go, and they wouldn't tell me who the co-host was. They're like, it's a household name. We can't tell you who it is. You know, okay. And they were launching a news show, and it was indeed a household name. And he walked in, and he's a huge political figure, worked in the White House for Trump for a period of time, as one does. And it was a big job. Like, it would have been a huge opportunity. But I got on the plane to go home, and I thought, there's not enough money in the world. I would be so unhappy. And I explained that to my agent. I said, this isn't a fit. I don't think this is a fit for me. And his response was, well, if you don't take it, I can't represent you anymore. And basically what he was saying is, I don't really care if you don't think it's a fit, but if I can't make my money.
Percentage.
And so that's been the hardest part, about working in the entertainment industry, but sort of finally just embracing like, hey, I'm a TV host and I'm a cowgirl. Like, this is what you get. People love it. And it's been such an amazing ride when I finally just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm done pretending that I'm one over the other. I'm going to just be both. And I'm going to do it in my own way, however that may look. It's just been amazing, the people that have reached out and embraced that. And I think there are a lot of people out there like us.
Well, there definitely is. But yeah, I mean, the old guard is changing, right? Like, that can only live so long. And you don't even have to be a fence rider. Just let's remove the fence. It doesn't need to exist. There's no reason. I mean, you can be whatever you want to be. And it sounds so stupid when you say shit like that. But seriously.
But it needs to be said.
But you can. I mean, so some of my favorite people who really, like Sid Steiner, they were just on here not too long ago. But that SOB, and I say that as a term of endearment, such a cool guy. Walked his path the way he wanted to do it, still does. Shows up here looking like a rock star, not a cowboy, which is great. It's just there's a figurehead who's well respected in rodeo. His whole family actually is that. So you can be more than one thing, and there's a lot of people who are. And actually, believe it or not, it's easier as a woman, I think, now, because a guy it might be a little tougher. Yeah, but you can be, and it's actually exciting, right? It's less boring. Like being more than just whatever the generic is. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I love the generic cowboy. I love that in my purest heart of hearts, because our country desperately needs that now more than ever. We need cowboy right now. We really do. But setting current events aside, we also need off the wall, wacky people. I say this is a term of endearment, just like you, but
okay, I'll take it.
You'll take it. I thought you might, but who can come in and stir things up in an industry that is desperately in need of being stirred up. That didn't sound right, but no,
but you're right.
It truly does.
I am not quiet about the fact that I say things sometimes about the agriculture industry that the agriculture industry does not always want to hear. But my standpoint is I've lived both sides of that fence that we're trying to get rid of, right? And so I see where both sides are coming from. Sometimes I say stuff that really pisses people off, but I believe in my heart it needs to be said. And so I'm just trying to be this sort of, mouthpiece. And when I think of Fancy Lady Cowgirl, all types are welcome. And it goes for men as well. I just branded it cowgirl because I'm a girl, but it goes for cowboys too. I'm just talking about men and women who are upholding traditions of the West. And when I say traditions of the West, I mean exactly what we've been talking about. That love for the land, the love for the animals, just respect towards other humans, all the things that make cowboys and cowgirls so great. My brand is uplifting those people who are sort of honoring those traditions of the West, but doing it in totally unexpected ways. I think of the Compton Cowboys. I love the Compton Cowboys. Are you familiar?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I envision. People who are just doing something so unexpected, yet uplifting and sort of spreading the word.
We need those guys right now more than ever. Yeah. Let's just be real.
Guys like that who are just doing really cool stuff. And social media, I've discovered so many, I'm going to leave you a whole list of podcast guests. I've discovered so many cool people just through social media. And I was not always super into social media. For a while, I was one of those I'm not going to post everything I'm doing. But I've sort of stepped back and looked at the bigger picture, and it's about spreading this message that just like what your podcast is spreading, just like what we're trying to do, social media is a great tool and it's free.
It's the tool, and I can relate to that up until kind of out of necessity. I hated, I would post not every new moon. I'd skip 6 of those and post twice a year just because I was I don't need to tell you all what I'm doing. I'm out here winning and I don't need to tell anybody.
Right.
Well, I can't really do that now because I have a platform. So you kind of do need to share. And it's kind of, it would be super hypocritical to not
Right.
post. And, you feel stupid doing it. And a lot of cowboys and cowgirls don't like to post because they're just like, I'm on the road. I don't look that good. I've been in a truck and a trailer, and they don't post. They should post a lot more.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is, and I've struggled with this just sort of in the entertainment industry, especially, you almost have to be pushy in my industry to get anything done. I mean, you have to be so aggressive and just almost, a terror, honestly, for them to even take a breath to answer an email or to look at a demo reel or to respond, no, we don't want to represent you. Like, you have to be so persistent. And I think of sort of my upbringing as a cowgirl and a rancher, and we were sort of taught to be very humble and very, I don't know.
Actions speak louder than words in our industry, totally.
And so I think that is where a lot of the struggle comes in, because, like I said, I wasn't always, I'm not great at social media. I'm not an expert. Like, I don't look at, did you know there are analytics? Like, what? I don't look at any of that stuff. I just post whatever I'm feeling and then hope it works. So I'm not an expert, but I am trying to, like you said, we've been given a platform. And I think people like you and I, we have voices, and we need to be a little louder, because, like you said, some of those people are on the road, and true ranchers, they don't have time. I mean, they're working, or, think of your parents growing up. They didn't have time to do social media.
Well, it didn't exist. And social media is an interesting tool if you know how to use it. It could also be a dangerous one and a very, toxic one too. But it's the best way to construe whatever message you want to construe. But some of the best in our industry don't know how to say certain things. Or they won't, because their morals push them in a certain direction, which is beautiful. That's one of the things I love. So there's got to be people who are willing to beat the drum on, I don't want to say on their behalf. None of those cowboys or cowgirls need anybody to do anything for them. They're all very capable. But the industry, you have to treat like a little child that has to be coddled and nursed and grown like a human being almost. And there has to be ballsy people who will sit in here and flail their hands around just like you, who will do that and be brave enough to put themselves out there. And there's just not a lot of people right now in our industry. We've seen it be effective in other industries. We've seen how it can grow if you have people truly using everything at their disposal for that. And I think you're a great person to do that, and I'm excited that you are, and I know that's what we're about. But yeah, I mean, you and I agree on a lot of things. It's nice. Yeah,
I just, and part of the reason that I sort of left that Western sports community TV-wise and stuff, if it's going to be done, I want to do everything at the highest level. I don't want to be on the cover, of a Western sports magazine. I'd be honored, and I would love to be.
But not very many people are going to see it.
But I envision a cowgirl on the cover of Vogue or Forbes, or I really want, without losing what makes us so special, I really want this way of life to be available to the mainstream audience. Because here's the thing, I go back to when I was living in New York. I was there living with my best friend, who I grew up high school rodeoing with. So 2 Kansas cowgirls living in the middle of Manhattan. And we would go out to bars, and people were like, oh, are you sisters? And we're like, no, we're best friends. And then, the next question is, well, how did you meet?
I can think of a few questions that come after that.
Well, yeah. But okay, that's for another podcast, okay?
Maybe we do that on your podcast.
Right. But we started noticing she's a singer and I'm a TV host. You say, I'm a singer, I'm a TV host in New York. Nobody gives a shit. What we started saying is, oh, we're cowgirls. We grew up rodeoing together. You want to talk about a whole bar coming to a screeching halt. What we discovered is, it wasn't like, oh, hardy har har, you were a bunch of you're cowgirls.
Tell us about it.
People were so intrigued. They were like, wait, what? You rode horses or you rode bull? Well, no, we didn't ride bulls. We're females. Females don't. But
some do.
Yeah, that's just true. They're much more cowgirl than I am. I couldn't ride bulls. I'd probably cry. But what we discovered is people were much more interested in our stories than we ever imagined they would be.
Guys, it's not audio only. The Gauge is on YouTube. Every single episode's on YouTube. We got 4K cameras, the best stuff. Check it out on YouTube if you want to see faces. Bright, smiling faces. We don't just use this lighting for nothing. We video it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell. Lots of people are watching the videos, but not a lot of people are subscribing. Please help me. Help us. help the gauge. Subscribe on YouTube.
Oh God, don't even get me started. My mom, she's like trying to do an Instagram. I'm like, just leave me alone. Just stay off your Instagram for God's sakes.
Yeah, the co-founder, my business partner, Dustin Pointer, he's so computer literate. He's like, why can't I share this Instagram story? It's like, because you don't know how. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's really funny.
Google
Brilliant
it.
businessman, not the best with tech.
Yeah.
He's going to be so mad at me for saying that.
I love it.
Anyway, where were we?
I don't remember.
I bet you get sidetracked easy.
This is your podcast, so you lead the way.
Was it? Because I was really confused.
Not to call you out or anything, but she says she didn't like your drink.
Oh, I told you not to tell him. I'm drinking it.
If I would have given you Red Bull and vodka instead of a Celsius, more healthy than a Red Bull and vodka, would you be complaining?
Yeah.
She's the first one who said she didn't like it.
No,
by the
I
way.
like it. It's not that I don't like it. It's just a little sweet for my taste.
I don't drink Red Bulls because that shit'll kill you.
I don't drink Red Bull either.
Yeah, the Celsius is a little better. Literally, all that's in that is vodka, Celsius, and a little bit of water.
So at 3 a.m. when I'm still wide awake, I'm going to think of you. Not fondly.
Yeah, she doesn't like your drink though.
No, it's fine.
I don't like his drink. I don't like his drink
Why
either.
you got to do me like that?
Hey, if
Dude,
there's
you're drinking a blue margarita, princess.
excuse me, this is a coconut berry
It's a
Red Bull.
coconut
You
Coconut
are
berry Red
not
Bull.
helping your case, coconut berry.
Hey, I had a watermelon margarita from
Oh my
Taco
God,
Cabana
this is getting
earlier.
worse. This is
Today?
getting worse.
Yes,
This
it was
is getting
good.
Worse.
Jeez, you must be young. I can't drink like that anymore. I used to be able to really.
I don't drink that much. This is probably the most I've drank in about 2 months.
It's 6
Because you're on
p.m.
the
and you've
gauge.
already had a margarita?
That's a small margarita from like a to-go margarita from Taco Cabana.
God, so you're,
That's literally
you're
Taco Bell
You're
for Texas
driving and
people.
drinking your
Oh, no.
Taco Bell.
So with that, because I was curious of how they did it. They just gave you like the slushy in a cup, and then they gave you a mini bottle of tequila.
That is so Texas. That is such a Texas
Texas is
thing.
a weird place to
And
be
I
from other
love it.
places.
It really is. In a good way.
Alcohol it's weird at least in this state. 'Cause my dad works in alcohol distribution, and so he moved here from California, and he tried to buy beer on a Sunday. You can't buy alcohol on a Sunday here.
Is that not a thing everywhere?
In Texas?
No, you can't.
I
I'm
thought
not
it
sure.
was just
Yes,
liquor.
you can because they sell it in grocery stores.
It's
So,
liquor.
so they do it. I think you can't buy hard alcohol on Sundays, and you can't buy beer or wine in stores before
yeah.
noon
I
on
think you're right.
Sundays.
I guess I've never tried to buy
Clearly,
liquor on a Sunday.
I'm not as experienced as you in this topic.
Well,
but
again, my dad worked.
Oh, okay.
My dad works in alcohol distribution and has worked in it all my life, so I'm well aware of the company.
okay.
Everybody relax on the alcohol. We've got enough alcohol to last us through another quarantine here. We'll be fine.
Oh gosh, don't say that. I hope there's not another quarantine.
They're trying to shut California down as we speak.
I thought I had read that maybe they had, or that bars and restaurants had been closed.
No, my
again.
closest friend lives in California, and
So
he's
not
getting
yet.
ready for it. He's also my business partner, and business there is going to get shut down.
Oh man,
So
that's
it's not
hard.
good.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what happens when shit goes down on an election year. That's just my opinion.
Yep.
Just the awkward
I'm not
silence.
gonna dive into that. 'cause-
No, we're not going to talk about politics.
No.
But a lot of our listeners really like politics, we found.
I'm into it. I don't want to my thing is, I sort of, yeah.
I mean, you got to be so happy you don't live in New York right now.
Oh, for sure. I have friends who are there, and it's just, it was tough for several months. At least here in like Dallas and Fort Worth, we could still sort of like go outside and get fresh air. I mean, I thought of people who were living in those cold climates and just like, what a nightmare, And I just look back like this is 2020. See, I don't even know what year it is. 2020. Like, it started off so huge for me. I was like, this is the year. Like, yeah. I started, my very first gig of the year was Madison Square Garden. Like, going live from the garden, like, woohoo, I've made it. And like, I look 3 months later and everything's just like totally
I feel
changed.
the same way. I thought 2020 is going to be the best year ever.
Yep.
3 months later, I'm applying for government-assisted
Yep.
loans.
Same.
So,
Same.
like, there's that. But that's part of business, especially when we're living through historical times. But I want to circle back to Fancy Lady Cowgirl. That's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fancy Lady Cowgirl. I cannot believe I got that right. It's clothing?
No,
Talk to me like I'm an idiot. I don't know what it is.
it's just, honestly, I don't know what it is either. And I say that in a serious sense. It's growing and evolving and changing every day. I don't have clothing. You'll appreciate this as a business owner. I got stickers made. And I was like, I'm going to order a few stickers. I'm going to sell them. Like, and if nobody buys them, like, I'll make my parents feel bad and buy the other 45. No idea what I'm doing. I like pick up my stickers and I'm so excited. And I post it on my social media. I couldn't believe it. I'm back ordered like 1,000 stickers. And I'm like, what? But it was such a like pivotal moment because I was like, wait a minute, like people are into this brand. Like people are really invested. And so maybe shirts and things will come down the road, but I'm like selling stickers. I sell like 1,000 stickers and I call my dad and I'm like, did I need to charge tax? Like, what is this? And my dad's like, oh my God, like you're running a business and you don't know what you're doing. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how much shipping cost. I'm like, yeah, I'll just put it in an envelope. Like, I don't know. And then people are messaging me, do you ship to Australia? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then I'm like, how much does it cost to mail something to Australia? I don't even know.
I did something earlier in the year where we were selling keychains and I had people from Australia. I was like, how much is shipping to Australia? It cost me like $20.
I just went to the post office and handed it to the lady. So backing up, yes, there will be merchandise and stuff at some point, but really what it is, the brand at its core is just the messaging that you can be both, you know? You can live in the city, you can live in the country, and you can be fancy and you can be ranchy. You know, the joke always was people who grew up with me would see me on TV or something and be like, wow, like you clean up really nice because I can be really ranchy, you know, like riding a horse, like blowing snot rockets off the side of my horse, roping calves, like dirty, whatever, you know, just cowgirl. And then they see me like come out of hair and makeup and they don't even recognize, like, who is this person? And so that really just the brand at the end of the day is just, you can uphold those traditions, whether you're standing in a studio, you know, of a network TV show, or whether you're riding a horse through the Flint Hills of Kansas, like you can still embrace the lifestyle and promote it and you know, support it. So yeah, there will be t-shirts and stuff eventually. But I got to figure out like if I got to pay taxes or what. This is how I do business. I just go all in.
You got to pay taxes.
I know.
And you got to do it quarterly or you're going to be in trouble.
Oh, I did that this year because as a freelancer.
Because the comptroller will come knocking on that door.
Yeah. So I'm thrilled because really I don't want to be a store. Like I'm not trying to be a professional t-shirt seller. It's really just to promote the brand and to promote the messaging that like, hey, there are people like you out there. I'm one of them. And I always say this for many, many years. I just thought, oh, I'm just like the oddball. Like I'm just like a weirdo because I decided to go into this entertainment industry. Like there are not other people like me out there. But when I finally started embracing it, oh my gosh, there's so many people.
You don't feel special anymore?
I don't, which in a good way. You know, like I just didn't know that there were other people that could relate with the things that I can relate to. And so, you know, yeah, the brand is evolving and changing daily as I go. But at its very core, my mission is just to be a storyteller for the Western community in whatever way, shape, or form that may look like.
Right. Well, so it's interesting because you're going to Guthrie to the high school finals this week, and think about how many kids are going to be there. Pick out the very few of them that are going to be career cowboys and cowgirls. Then there's going to be the some who kind of dabble, right? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be the people who completely drop it and transition into what I would consider to be regular life. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of people in that regular life segment, you know, and only calling regular life like non-rodeo, just for reference. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, my life is regular. I'm a rancher. Yes, you are. You're regular. But there's a group of people who will completely drop the hat, the rope, and go do other things who come from that background. I mean, that's why we call it Inside the Western Lifestyle. If there's a single tie that pulls you, you could have grown up on a farm and you could be a politician. There's a couple of them out there, and they're really good ones. Mm-hmm. I mean, that governor of South Dakota, she's a boss.
How cool was that? Did you see her ride the horse into the PBR?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of her and Matt West and all those people today, actually, on his Instagram. And I was like, where can we get more governors like her? Yeah. But so it just shows you that there's so many potential advocates for this sport. We just got to let them come in. For sure. And, you know, I think of the high school finals and I think of all those kids. I was sitting at the high school finals, you know,
it's been a few years.
How many years?
I'm gonna age myself here a little bit. I graduated college in 2011. I graduated high school in 2008. So it's been a while. I'm old, but I was that kid. You know, I sat in those bleachers and I competed in those events. And I think of myself going and hosting, you know, the TV, the broadcast for Ride Pass, which is super cool. And I'm super excited to highlight those kids. But I think to myself, man, if I can go and if I can, even if it's just one kid, one girl or one boy, if I can show them that like, hey, you can do both. It's okay if you don't want to rodeo for the rest of your life. Because that's the other thing too. I felt a lot of guilt. Because I couldn't afford to rodeo for a living and maybe I didn't have the horses to, you know, be a world champion and that I sort of stepped aside, I felt like guilty that I had turned my back a little bit on that community.
I mean, I can relate with that 100%. I have a very interesting insight because there's been like 3 times in my life where I dropped horses. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a time where all I was doing was riding horses for money. There was a time where I had NFR aspirations, just like we all do at some point. And then there was a time where my sister, who hadn't rodeoed forever, threw all caution to the wind, jumped in feet first, no education at all, threw every opportunity she had away. And, you know, just a few short years later, she's won everything under the sun and, you know, has been to the NFR 4 times and is only 25. So it can be done. Like you could put everything on red and totally freaking fail. Yeah. Go broke, lose your credit, lose every possession you've got, which is scary for a lot of people. It was too scary for me because I had no resources myself, none. The one benefit my sister had is that our folks were barrel horse trainers and she could at least get the right horse. Now, my father had to beg, borrow, and steal to get her there. She'll always credit him for that. Not some other things, not so much, but she will. That wouldn't have been an option for me because my parents were barrel horse trainers. So I was like, ain't no way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wreck my life. In hindsight, I felt really good because if I would have tried as hard as Ivy did, probably would have worked out. But I didn't. I was like, nope, forget this. Let me walk a different path. I don't want to break colts anymore. Let me see how I can go make money and make it in the world. And let it go for like 3-4 years. Couldn't stomach that. Got back into it. Was riding 3-4 horses every day after a job. And then, you know, was going to start entering circuit rodeos, get into it. Had trained a calf horse from scratch, more or less. He already could rope, but did that. And then had the opportunity to start a business and get bought into a business and do all these things and dropped it again.
Yeah. Felt
really guilty that time. So, I mean, I've rode that roller coaster that you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I also think there's something to be said for those of us who do leave. Yes, there's guilt, but that also takes a whole lot of courage. And I tell people that all the time. Like, man, I think of my 82-year-old pappy who is still ranching in Kansas. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves, people like you and I don't give ourselves enough credit. It's hard. It's hard to leave that lifestyle that's all we've ever known.
Well, and what it does is it eats at you on a really deep level. It really screws with you. I mean, it completely fucked me up for a while. Especially when I saw like what my sister was doing. And I don't want to say that there was jealousy there, but then you get this weird, unrealistic thought in your head. And you may not be able to relate to that. You don't have a family member who made it to the NFR or anything, do you? Okay. So it creates this weird, unrealistic thing in your head that, well, shit, I could have done that.
Yeah.
For me, luckily, I'm very self-aware. I shut that off of me. I was like, that's stupid. No, it wouldn't have worked that way. You created a whole bunch of responsibilities really fast that you will not be able to walk away from to pursue that. But you can't hold things against yourself. And if you're looking at it from the standpoint of, well, she's getting recognition and I'm not, then you're already in the wrong place so far. Luckily, I was able to not do that, but you don't. There's other ways you can contribute. And just like you, I mean, you found another way to contribute. The Gauge is finding it. This is a way for me to contribute and the people who are involved in this to contribute. And if you can kind of proverbially link arms with other people, whether that be world champions or people who own networks or people like you, like me, and kind of march forward to better the sport, that's what actually matters. It doesn't matter
100%.
if you let it go, if you came back, what capacity you came back, doesn't matter if you live in an apartment in downtown Dallas. It doesn't, because the character is cowboy. The
100%.
character is cowgirl. That
It never leaves.
leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so well said. It never leaves. And, I think back, I always say, and, I'm sure if the money was right and it was the right opportunity, but I always say I will never go back to that full-time network job. Because when in television, when you work for a network, they're king. They have control over everything, your brand, your face, your beliefs, everything. And I just think, I couldn't be cowgirl working at a TV at one single network. But, when I finally stepped away, and I don't want to say that it was beautiful, because what actually happened, and it was a blessing, they canceled the show I worked on in Dallas. And it was such a blessing. But then suddenly, I don't have a job. It's been 2 years to sort of get to this point where I've got opportunities with the PBR and opportunities within the Western sports community, and then other opportunities that have nothing to do with the Western sports. I'm sort of trying to mesh all that together. But I tell people all the time, I walked dogs. I did anything it took to be able to pay my rent, to stay in the city that I loved, to be able to work with the people that I wanted to work with. I sold friends' clothes online. I did anything it took to be able to afford to keep living in this city and pursuing what I wanted to pursue.
And again, there's parallels there with rodeo, because people have begged, borrowed, stolen, done everything they can to make that dream a reality. And it doesn't matter if it's for what you're talking about or if it's for rodeo. There's so much to be said about people who are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Because pride is a dangerous thing. And if you can be humble and figure out a way, you're going to benefit at some point from that. And I don't think anybody more than cowboys and cowgirls can relate to that, because that road is so hard. I mean, I watched it break one of my favorite people and watched her rebuild herself into an unbreakable person. You're one of those unbreakable people. I can tell just by talking to you here that you've been beat down like nobody's business, not from rodeo, but from something maybe more scary.
Yeah.
And come back, and I don't feel like that could probably happen to you again.
Yeah. Honestly, if I did not have the upbringing that I had, being a cowgirl and being raised around cowboys and just ranchers, we watch on TV, Hollywood A-list stars, freak out and have to go to rehab and, horrible things, and everybody's getting divorced and whatever. Man, I get that on such a deep level, because I've worked in the industry. I know what a grown adult man who was my boss, I know the things he has said to me. I see how women in my industry treat other women. I mean, I hesitate saying that it's a really volatile, hard industry to work in, because then people always follow up with, well, then why do you do it? Because I love it. I love being that storyteller.
Doesn't
I
matter
love being a
what
voice.
people say. You should be able to tell the truth on.
But it's hard. And it's a totally different hard probably than that rodeo road, than, qualifying for the NFR or running a ranch. It's a different type of hard. But man, if I had not been a cowgirl, and if I had not been raised the way I was raised in this Western sports community, I would not have survived the entertainment industry. Because being a cowgirl made me tough enough to not put up with the bullshit, which wasn't always well received. I was outspoken when I felt I needed to be outspoken, and that very rarely was received well in the TV industry. And it made me tough enough to fight for what I was worth, my value too. I don't want to turn this into like a feminine whatever, but the pay gap is very real, especially in the entertainment industry when it comes to males versus females. And, there's just all of these different challenges. And if I hadn't been a cowgirl, man, I don't know if I would have survived it, honestly. I don't know if I would have made it.
Right.
I would have probably given up, gone off and done something else. And, given up something that I really am passionate about, something that really does make me happy. There's nothing like the rush of, the 3, 2, 1, we're coming to you, Courtney, you're on, inside Madison Square Garden. There is nothing that compares to that. But it took 10 years of cowgirl survival skills to get me to that point.
Right. No, and that makes a lot of sense. Having a stronger base, I mean, because you see so many celebrities, you could just turn on any network, they're going to tell you, they just break.
Yeah.
They just crumble and they break. Don't know why, but maybe it's that upbringing.
Yeah.
They don't have that strong upbringing.
And there's just, there's so much pressure. And I'm not saying I'm a celebrity, but what I'm saying is, when I see those like household names that do crack and do crumble, like I have such empathy for them because in my industry, every single thing is controlled, from the color of your eyes to your hair to your weight to how deep your voice is, to every single thing about you is controlled so that they can make money. That's how they make money. You're a brand. They're trying to sell you. And I've really had to be very mindful about staying true to who I am because they don't quite know how to sell me. They don't know how to sell this Fancy Lady Cowgirl. And so my mindset with really branding that and just like going for it, like balls to the wind, this is who I am. I'm going to
balls
show
to the wind?
Is that not the phrase?
It's balls to the wall.
That's what I meant, but maybe it was windy, okay? Whatever.
Maybe it was windy?
Balls to the wall. It is balls to the wall.
I mean, it's
But
like
you knew
1,000 degrees out, so if there's wind, balls might need to go to the wind just to
exactly.
bring one's temperature down.
Just trying to get some air on
What was
them,
the heat
okay?
index, like 112?
It's really hot.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I'm wearing full. I saw you in shorts. I was like, dang it, I should have wore shorts.
Yeah, like I said, I get mocked for my shorts, but I'm from Colorado. I'm
Oh,
not
you're
wearing
dying.
boots and Wranglers in
Yeah.
this heat. There's no chance in hell.
I bet you're dying. Yeah. I also have barrel racer legs. Like when I wear shorts in Dallas, I can see people like, oh, that poor girl must have a hard home life. I want to be like, no,
No, I spent 8 months in hostels in Europe, actually, is what happened. I got hung up by these legs.
oh, the stories I can tell about the hostels. Yeah, anyway, I don't even know what I was saying, but yeah, it's a tough industry. I'm thankful for my upbringing because that's sort of how I've survived it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't get past the balls to the wind comment.
I was really deep
It's a little
inside
hot
my
in
thoughts.
here, so I'm
Okay,
like,
I was
it's
like,
not the worst idea.
I was rolling with it. Okay, I was rolling with it. I was vibing, and then you just called me out.
You know what happens when somebody says something super weird, and then you have to try to see what that would look like? That's where I'm at.
Oh God.
And now I can't unsee it, especially with my shitty drink you mocked. I'm like in a weird place right now.
Balls to the wind. That's going to be my new slogan, I think. Fancy Lady Cowgirl, balls to the wind.
Hashtag
hey,
balls to the wind.
Hashtag balls to the
Trademark
wind.
it real quick so she can't mess
All right,
with it.
hang on. I'm going to register this on Twitter.
I've got it pulled up on my phone. You're done. It's already pending.
I
I'll
can
get the
see your
website.
phone's not even on.
It's pending.
Yeah.
Back off.
She
Balls
doesn't know
the
how to pay
wind.
taxes. She doesn't know how to trademark.
Wait, do you have fancycowgirl.com?
Own it.
Damn.
Fancy Lady Cowgirl, trademarked.
Oh,
okay, I'm
snap.
not stupid.
All right, so
I
she's ahead of the curve.
I just got ahead of
she is.
myself
Look
on
at
the
you.
sticker empire a little bit. I'll be honest.
how many designs do you have though?
Ty, you're doing that thing
Just one.
that I predicted you'd do. You're talking too much. You're talking too much.
This is my
You're
my
a si-
environment though.
You're a silent
If
producer.
you steal my brand, I will sue you.
I will help you create designs. I'll help you with
Okay.
this.
Okay, we'll wrap after this.
You're breaching your contract if you help her.
What?
Just kidding.
Oh,
Just kidding. No, please help her. She needs it.
clearly.
Wow.
Clearly.
No, we're good. But what are you doing with your face?
I'm just waiting on you to lead this show.
Yeah, well, you do sidetrack me a lot, surprisingly. I get compliments for the way that I lead the show, but you're kind of just like this ball in the wind that takes us to places we don't want to go. One thing I did want to ask you about, because I'll be honest, I wasn't sold on you coming on the show until I saw Jogger Walk.
Jogger watch. Speaking of balls to the
Jogger
wind,
watch.
or balls in the wind.
What?
No, yes, proceed.
What? Yeah. Oh, anyway.
He heard me.
So our marketing director sent to me that, and she's like, oh, we're going to have this girl go on. She's probably going to talk about balls on the show. I was like, okay. But here's why. Here's this thing she does, Jogger Watch. I was like, well, let me watch that. Oh, wow, she's really funny. Tell me about this thing.
So, in my spare time, I like to call myself an up-and-coming comedian. I did take some improv acting. I am quite hilarious. Jogger Watch is essentially just me putting my slow motion feature on my iPhone to very good use. I video strange naked men jogging in Dallas.
They weren't all naked.
Well, there was quite a few naked ones.
Naked-ish.
Naked-ish.
No balls
So
that
here's
I saw,
here's
unless you were...
No, we're keeping this PG. No, here's what happened. See, what happened was quarantine hit, right? and I'm stuck in my apartment. I grew up on a ranch. I like to be outside. And I was like, I have to get outside. And the gyms are closed. I also really like to eat. So I'm like, oh God, like I got to get outside and exercise, do something. And so I started like walking.
Hold on. It's so hard not to eat in Dallas. There's so many
That's
good
all
restaurants.
That's all you do.
It's like the best place to eat.
Do you know what somebody told me? And I don't know if this is true. Somebody once told me, actually a couple people have told me this, that Dallas has more restaurants per capita than New York City. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard that?
It's probably, I could see that.
Yeah.
I love going to Uptown Dallas. I don't like the weirdos, but I like, oh, I might want to eat here. I could eat there. You never have to eat at a chain restaurant in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex ever.
No, it's so good. I love Dallas. Dallas is a great food scene. Not so great on the butt size. So I started walking during quarantine because the gyms are closed. And it was stressful. Like I was working in Western sports. Suddenly there's no sports. Like I was literally not sleeping at night thinking, oh my God, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to have to move home with my parents for the second time. Anyway, so I was like, what am I going to do? So I'm super stressed. So I would get out and walk. And I remember like day 2, I was out walking and I was like, where did all of these men come from?
Ty, can you pull one of the jogger watches up?
Oh, you have them. Oh, you have a video.
Play it.
Here we have a tiny dancer. What in the hell he's doing, nobody actually knows. Working on his mime skills, or maybe karate with a bumblebee. Whatever it is, one thing is for certain, Tiny Dancer will never get a girlfriend. Then we have Gerard, the speed demon. He picked up Chipotle, extra guac, some of that nasty shit that passes for queso, and inhaled it, only to then discover he's out of toilet paper. He's running fast, but everyone knows nothing.
That's so true.
Literally had Chipotle for lunch today. That didn't happen to me. I must have an iron stomach.
Mikey. Then we have the
I
man.
don't know why I went
Hold
into
on.
an accent.
This guy, pause this. Did this guy do that when he saw you like walking up on him? He's like, oh, here's a girl.
I don't know.
Let me show my upper thigh.
We made a little bit of eye contact. I'm not sure. Like, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'm into it. Okay, so this is like one of my commentating.
I mean, he's only like 3 months removed from like a good body. He could be like JV all team body if he
3
just.
months removed. I forgot I put these on YouTube. Yeah, so it was a whole thing. But basically, these are like the funny ones. There was also a lot of like ex-GQ models running around, and I documented the hell out of it. And my followers loved it. And is it creepy as it sounds? Absolutely. But like it gave me something to do. And then the people loved it. And so I literally for 3 months I did every single day.
So there's something I really hate, and that's
do tell.
Sexism. I mean, I'm really, if a guy did this to
women. I know. And I've gotten those messages. And the thing is, like, this totally started, I was like, oh God, I don't have an answer for this.
I'm totally kidding.
I've had a couple people that
But for real.
I've had a couple people who have said that, but like, honestly, this is totally just for fun. I'm not a super creep. I just appreciate a good body. And here's the thing. Most of Jogger Watch is actually on my Instagram stories. I only uploaded like 3 videos to YouTube. These, like, I'm sorry. If you're running around half-ass naked, you want people to look, okay? I'm just saying. If you're running around just 6-pack flying, I'm going to look. I can't help it. I'm just human, okay?
So everything's flying now. Balls, the 6-packs, everything.
So literally,
I'm in one of those weird places where I don't really know what to say.
I'll say something.
Don't worry, I'll take over. I know.
But really, is Jogger Watch what sold you on me? Is that true? That's a little weird.
No, absolutely not. But it was funny. You were the one who were saying you were so funny. Don't let me out funny you.
I think it's funny. So I did do a little commentary.
I actually do think it's funny. I watched the 3 that you posted. I was like, okay, this chick's actually really funny. I can't think of anything that we need in the rodeo industry more than like fun and funny. There's a lot of dry.
That's true. I
don't know any rodeo comedians, like real ones. There's rodeo clowns.
Maybe we should go down that alley. We could be like a threesome comedian team.
Not
Are you
Ty.
funny?
Ty's not
Sorry,
funny.
Ty, you're out. You're
he
not
just
funny.
inserts himself in AB conversations.
But see, that's kind of funny. You're like
It is funny. He doesn't know anything about rodeo.
Even better.
On the peanut gallery over here.
I think it would be great. You don't know anything. You're
The
just
what
like,
gallery?
The peanut gallery?
Oh, I'm glad you enunciated that time.
Okay, asshole.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we need to like jazz it up a little bit. Even TV sometimes can be a little dry in our Western sports community.
You don't say.
Yeah, I didn't want to like be rude, but yeah, sometimes it sucks. I mean, and not to say that I'm the end all. Like I am not the greatest, whatever, but you got to have a little personality.
Well, I mean, so I always use the analogy of like Sports Center, right? Even if you don't like sports, you could actually watch like Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, those type guys, and they're actually fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I don't really care what they're saying, but like I like their funny banter, and it there's room for personality in this sport, and there's actually a lot of people who have great personalities. There's a lot of rodeo athletes that have really great personalities that they don't let out, mostly because they don't have time, right? Mm-hmm. There's not like your whether it be your 8-second ride or your 14-second barrel run or whatever it is, and then if you win, you get your little 15-second quick interview where the announcer's reading off the teleprompter, and it's okay. There's nothing there. After a boxing match or UFC fight, the energy, the excitement, like even sometimes the humor, I mean, it is so easy to get into those things because there's so much excitement.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, I'm totally unscripted at the high school finals, so there is no telling what might come out of my mouth.
Really? They said just say whatever you want?
There's no scripts.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a prompter or anything. And the PBR was largely that way too, except I was nervous when I started with the PBR because my first event was New York, and it's one of the big events, and I sort of just like got thrown in, and so I was like, oh my God, don't mess this up. Partially because I've been on TV at every level. That's not what made me nervous. It was because I respect that like lifestyle so much. I was
you have to be careful.
I was like, I don't want to like be the idiot like new girl who all the guys are like, who is this ding dong interviewing? I really respect them so much.
Right.
That I was like, oh God, please don't mess this up. But yeah, high school finals will be fun, and those kids, this is like the time of their life, and I hope they enjoy it, and I hope I don't.
I'm just so glad that they're having the high school finals. I mean, so many kids didn't get to walk in graduation, and a lot of people, this is their last high school finals. And thank God Guthrie stepped up and is doing it.
For sure.
Because that would be,
can you imagine?
It would be traumatic.
I'd have been
hugely
devastated.
Traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah, you work your whole life, to qualify for the high school finals. And it just, man, that to me is worse than not walking in a graduation, like that would have just
for rodeo kids
me.
Because what you find with a lot of rodeo kids is they don't, they generally, a lot of them are homeschooled and they don't go to big schools anyway.
Yeah, they're not going to graduations anyway.
So they don't really care all that much. Mm-hmm. But the high school finals, that's a whole different game.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I'm, the Lazy E, props to them because they've been having events this whole time and doing it safely and doing a great job. And yeah, I'm excited. We'll see how it goes.
I'm going to watch.
He's like, oh, this is going to be a train wreck. I can't wait. No, I'm actually quite professional.
No, I'm sure you have a great stage voice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Listen to you.
I can do different accents. Did you hear my Australian accent in Jogger Watch?
I heard part of the Australian.
I don't know where that came from. It just came out of me.
Jesus.
My mom called. She goes, why are you doing accents? I'm like, I don't know, Mom. It just came out of me.
It reminded me of those old gag shows. Like, what was that one where they would, like, the Japanese guys would do the, like, courses and there'd be, like, foam and, like, spinning things.
It was Wipeout before Wipeout.
Yeah.
That's what your voice reminds me of, and the way that you did that. It was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what the old one was.
I remember watching on like Spike TV whenever I was like 10.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever that was. That's what you remind me of with those.
Thank you.
You maybe don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm like, I think that's a compliment.
No, it totally is, because that was so entertaining.
And it was totally a shtick, too. I won't do an Australian accent at the high school finals, I don't think.
I dare you to do that.
I double dare you.
I can hear them now. They'll be like, why is Courtney talking in an accent?
There'll probably be some kids from Australia there.
Do you think they'll be able to come in? I wondered if they'd be able to get into maybe they live here? Because see, some of the bull riders, like the Brazilians, aren't back. Like
they probably won't.
Which is too bad.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about the fact that coronavirus wouldn't allow international flights.
Mm-hmm. But don't worry, I'll do my Australian accent anyway.
Do it. It'll be appreciated, especially if it like goes half British at the
Good
end.
Good It changes. It goes for my Australian accent kind of morphs into like an Irish. I'm working on my accents. I didn't get to that level of improv yet.
As soon as you start working again, you can buy more acting classes.
Yeah, which at this rate, maybe 2025.
Well, where can everybody find you on social media?
My Instagram's just at Court DeHoff. Facebook is Courtney DeHoff TV. And just CourtneyDeHoff.com. And God bless my mother. My name is spelled the French way. It's Enay. So
I thought you maybe did that yourself, like a horse joke, like nay. I don't know. That was
Absolutely
really stupid.
not.
That was
No.
a stupid joke.
It was. Cut
You-
that shit.
No, I'm not gonna cut that.
You
You
should
absolutely
definitely
will.
leave that.
Yeah, you'll cut it.
You should definitely.
Or I'll
leave
cut
that.
your pay.
You should definitely leave that
just
and
kidding.
cut balls to the wind. Yeah.
Not cutting balls to the wind. No.
Yeah, but you can find me on social media. Maybe a TV screen near you.
Hey.
Ride Pass, right?
Yeah, and on Ride Pass.
Yeah. Sweet. I
Yeah.
think if we go too much longer, we're probably going to get in territories that rodeo people will stop following us. So we should probably stop now.
Good call. Good call.
This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy, Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers, Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content by Cassie Emerson. Our theme song is by Shay Ashshire and the Night Howlers. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.